All right. Good morning, everybody. Fishing golf with First Blood. Good morning. Oh, double check my microphone. Make sure we're on the right one. We are. We are. All right. Good morning. So this morning, y'all gonna have to forgive me. I'm in my Jedi robe because it's 20 degrees outside. Whoa. But plus, with this thing, I can live just oh. So anyway, it's yeah. We're gonna be talking about the California wildfires a little bit this morning, and y'all, I know Cameron wishes he could be on this morning because we're going to be talking about, in particular, the insurance scandal. Let's face it, there's a real problem with the insurance situation in California right now. But first, let's talk about what's going on with these wildfires. Basically, you got neighborhoods that are just completely wiped out, right? You got the Pacific Palisades burned to the ground. Uh, and I know that there's some temptation that there's for a little Schadenfreude out there with some of these big Hollywood celebrities getting hit hard. But like Cameron mentioned when he and I were talking on the phone a little bit ago, kind of doing some show prep this morning, and these, as much as we might like to, whatever the external forced version of secession is, get rid of California, as much as I'd love to open a real estate company and sell waterfront property in Arizona Bay, in theory, these are Americans that are suffering and getting their asses kicked out there. But as we're going to go into in just a second here, this is a problem I won't say the problem itself was absolutely avoidable, but it was predictable. And when I say predictable, I mean predicted. And the obvious mitigation that should have been a part of preparation going into this was essentially evaded by hard left policy, right? So you got Gavin Newsom as, I want to take you guys back. I'm going to share this clip from Alex Jones because, we like to joke that Alex Jones was right about everything, right? Alex Jones was right about everything. Well, this is Alex Jones reminding you that Donald Trump is also right a lot.
All right, here's Trump on raking the forest they made so much fun of. Here it is.
Cleaned out and protected. You got to take care of the floors, the floors of the forests. Very important. You look at other countries where they do it differently, and it's a whole different story. I was with the president of Finland, and he said, we have a much different, we're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spend a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem.
So if you guys remember back when this clip aired, they didn't just make fun of Donald Trump, right? That was part of it. They made fun of him for saying, "Oh, well, you should rake the forest. You should rake up all the dead debris." Because here's what happens, right? I've got a shitload of woods back here, and let me tell you something. If you don't do anything about it, you've just got dry sticks piling up on the ground. They fall out of the tree, squirrels knock them down, they get blown down by the wind, they just pile up on the ground. And there's plenty of work that I still need to do back here to clean up the woods behind my house. That we were working on that was part of the project when we first moved in here. I worked my ass off clearing a walking path back to the clearing and cleaning up brush and debris. And then, of course, Helene came through and reset the clock on all of that. So, we're back at it. That's one of the things that we spend some of our time on, is just cleaning up all the debris and the fallen trash back there, precisely to avoid a forest fire happening. Right? I mean, it makes my land prettier too, but more importantly, I don't want the whole thing to catch on fire at some point. But it's also true, in all fairness, we live in a wetter place than California. Georgia is hell. The city of Atlanta was built on swamp. There are swampy patches next to the creek that runs through my property. The actual risk of a serious blaze cutting loose out here is not extremely high. Sergeant Major points out somebody needs a tractor. Yes, I do. It's on the list. It's a work in progress. But back when Donald Trump pointed out that they need to be doing a lot more as far as forest management, we're talking back in, what was it, 2017, 2018, that this happened. There was a massive wildfire, another massive wildfire in California. And the Donald said, hey, you gotta take precautions. You gotta do something to plan for this and deal with it. Now, in fairness to California, that's what caused the fire that is a factor in the fire beginning. But the fire got way the hell out of control. And we're talking about potentially billions of dollars in property damage. And that's down to a sort of a perfect storm of several severe problems. You've got the mismanagement of the forest, right? You've got the water storage mismanagement. Then you've got the DEI fire chief. We'll get into her in just a minute. And then you've got one factor here that is a complete act of God beyond anybody's control. In all fairness, this is serious. Let me share this clip so that you understand. Part of the problem is that with the rest of the perfect storm of three serious problems: the forest mismanagement, the water mismanagement, the DEI hire. It just happens that they're also experiencing 100-mile-an-hour winds. So, for example, here's a video clip of an airplane dropping fire suppressant chemicals.
Here it comes.
And watch what the wind does to it. How are you supposed to do with that? Right? The fire suppressant just gets scattered and taken away. And then watch this airplane. It's getting its ass whipped by the fire, or by the wind. Now, I don't know if part of the wind problem, I kind of suspect that you've got the high winds, and then right in the sweet spot where the aircraft need to be, the high wind problem is being exacerbated by wind turbulence caused by the fire itself. Because that's a thing, right? Talk about climate change, but big ass fire definitely disturbs the air. So you got 100-mile-an-hour wind coming in. So yeah, you've got the billow of God stoking this forge fire like he's getting ready to hammer out the next Mjolnir for Thor. And holy shit, Megan, you're getting ahead of me there. You're getting ahead of me there. So the wind is a multifaceted problem, because of course, as the wind blows through, it's feeding oxygen to the fire. Obviously, it's got plenty of fuel because it's California and rich people own a lot of shit, and the shit they own, right. I mean, I've got some toys, but televisions aren't full of gas. Cameras aren't full of gasoline. You know what it is? Motorcycles, boats, jet skis. So you've got all that adding to the problem. I mean, sure, if we suddenly had a wildfire tear through here, all of my propane tanks would suddenly become, just a a time bomb waiting for it to happen. So the next thing, since Megan just brought it up, I'll talk about the FEMA situation a little bit. California's going to get the money they need. Californians will get whatever, $10 billion they need from the federal government, because the government spends money on things they like. Now, out here in Georgia and Florida and South Carolina and the Low Country and the South, we ran into a problem with Helene. Now, in fairness, the new fiscal year did start after all that problem. But don't forget, Mayorkas told us that FEMA's out of money, right? We reported on this at the time that it happened. We saw Mayorkas told us FEMA's out of money because we spent so much money on the hostile foreign invaders. And then, Danny, I'm going to get to that in a minute. We spent so much money on the hostile foreign invaders that FEMA ran out of money and just couldn't do anything. And of course, here in the South, we've seen that not only has the government been unresponsive and unwilling to come in and do any meaningful assistance, they've actually been actively interfering with volunteer organizations. The Amish came down and tried to build tiny homes as temporary shelters, and local government said, "Oh, those aren't up to our building code, so people can't live in them." Like, you mean the people that are over there in the tents? And this was about 2 months ago that problem really spun up a little before Thanksgiving, and I mean it's 20 degrees outside right, or 22 degrees outside right now. Feels like 18 because of wind or whatever. And it was about like that when we found out that local governments were saying, no, you can't move into the Amish tiny home with the wood burning stove. You have to stay in the tent because these don't meet our standards. But Alex says California will get some money. The people of California won't get a penny. No, I disagree, because here's what happens. Just like I explained before when they were telling us that they didn't have any money for the South, but at the same time they sent billions of dollars to Ukraine and Israel and a few other places. The fact is, you'll hear people say, "Well, money doesn't come out of nowhere, right? Nothing comes from nothing." That's not entirely true. Money doesn't come from nowhere eventually. So eventually you're gonna see your taxes go up to pay for debts, but the government is more than happy to just print money. So at the same time they were telling us that FEMA was out of money, they managed to print several $billions to send overseas, in some cases for disaster relief in foreign countries, which is just, hey, look, my heart breaks for you if you got your mud hut wiped out by a monsoon season somewhere in mid-Africa. I feel bad for you, I do. But they took that money from me, and then I needed it. Should say every American citizen ever. Because when you need your money, it's busy putting bullets in both sides of a conflict, right? But California being one of the largest economies in the world by itself, and also carrying one of California carries an amount of debt as a state that rivals other major federal economies. But what you're going to see, FEMA will get out there and they'll spend an absolute fortune. And the reason I say Yeah, Alex, I see. He says, I think you misunderstood. The California government will get billions. The individuals won't get a penny. California government will use the money to pay for their high-speed rail to nowhere. No, because what's about to happen, you're going to see a lot of political noise about these evil insurance companies. So let's get into that now. You're going to see a lot of political noise about these evil insurance companies that just happened to pull out and cancel everybody's insurance right before the wildfires happened. Right. And that is going to be rallied by Democrats in California into the U.S. taxpayer, right, using federal taxpayer money to rebuild these multi-million-dollar homes. That's going to be the argument they use is, well, there was nothing we could do. We got all the insurance companies left. And the insurance companies left because of California's problems. So I'm going to show you 3 articles on this. We've got this one from, wait a minute, let me make sure I got these in order. That one's from 23. I thought I had one from further back. That one's from 24. And that one's from 24. Okay, so going back to, so it started earlier than this, but we've got this article from AP News from middle of last year. Excuse me. So the AP reports California insurance market rattled by withdrawal of major companies. So middle of last year, 2 insurance industry giants have pulled back from California's home insurance marketplace, saying that increasing wildfire risk and soaring construction costs have prompted them to stop writing new policies in the nation's most populous state. State Farm announced last week it would stop. And again, last week is the end of May of last year. State Farm announced that it would stop accepting applications for all business and personal lines of property and casualty insurance, citing inflation, a challenging reinsurance market, and rapidly growing catastrophe exposure. The decision did not impact personal auto insurance. So for those of you who don't know, and most people who have never worked in the insurance business don't know what reinsurance is. So there are these things called reinsurance companies. And what a reinsurance company does is they write insurance policies on insurance policies. So you're one of the big boys like State Farm, State Farm, Geico, et cetera, and you're writing not just large policies, but a large number of large policies, right? You hire a reinsurance company to insure your profit margins, to insure your policies. So when your house gets hit by a tree and you're the only one on the block and you file a claim to get your roof fixed, right? State Farm, Allstate, they come out and assess the damage and they write you the smallest check they can get away with writing. And the deal's done because that's the business they're in. But your whole neighborhood burns to the ground and they have to come in and assess the whole damage, total rebuild, right? Total rebuild cost. And then the insurance company is going to file a claim against their reinsurance company so that their funds are reinsured. So understand that when the insurance companies say we're pulling out of your state because of the risk that it presents, what they're telling you is that our reinsurance company has done the risk assessment, and they've said that because Gavin Newsom refuses to clean up the forest floor, California environmentalists are hoarding water for the Delta smelt and refusing to let the northern melt-off reach the southern portion of California under this argument about the endangered Delta smelt dying in the Bay Area. And that, in fairness, that issue is a little more complex than that because without the environmental flow, the environmental water flow that pushes the salt water from the fresh reservoir back out through the brackish bay and into the Pacific, then you end up with salt water getting deeper and deeper into farm country. But those are all problems that can be handled with dams and water management, and the California just refuses to do that work, right? But when the insurance company says we're pulling out, it's because the reinsurance company says, we will go bankrupt if you have to file this claim. And that's not happening. So you're going to get a lot of noise. You're going to hear James Woods talking about people getting their insurance policies canceled in the past couple weeks. This next article, California insurance crisis deepens as providers pull out of state. This is from the end of last year. This is from this one's from the beginning of last year. So 6 months, give or take, after the first article. Homeowners are increasingly running out of options to insure their homes with a private company, as yet another insurer announces its decision to stop offering new policies to residents. The Hartford Financial Services Group, better known as the Hartford, announced on Wednesday that it will no longer offer new personal property insurance coverage to homeowners in the Golden State starting in February. Homeowners with existing policies will continue to be renewed, the company told the San Francisco Chronicle. But they, I don't know if the Hartford canceled policies, but several companies just canceled a bunch of policies, apparently a couple thousand policies, just about a month ago. And then this article is from the end of last year, from December 30th. So we're talking just over a week ago. California will soon require insurers to increase home coverage in wildfire-prone areas. Okay, so here in Georgia, we have a high-risk insurance pool, right? So when you buy homeowners insurance, depending on where you are, like if your house is not above the 100-year floodplain, like I'm good. But when Helene came through, we could, because we're nice and high on our land. But when Helene came through, the river that runs along the side of the house over here, there were literally billions of gallons of water that just suddenly filled it in. So over on the side of my yard over here, there's a drop off and down to the creek bed, right? And the creek bed, the walls of the creek bed are about 2.5, 3 foot tall when the water's at its lowest. And that creek bed turned into a lake for about 3 or 4 days after Helene. It was amazing. It was just, alarming to see. But that's a once in a generation, more than once in a generation disaster. That, a 100-year disaster that hit us. And, that water has receded now and gone down, so we're good. But because that happens, if you're below the 100-year floodplain in Georgia, your homeowner's insurance probably does not cover flooding. You have to buy a separate flood policy from the high risk pool. California apparently does not have something like that. They haven't done that. So what they need to do is they need to create a high risk pool. And the way it works is all the insurers have to take some portion of the pool. And it's not a loss leader. It's not like buying a $1 gallon of milk at Aldi used to be. But the Costco hot dogs. Look, we know you're here for the hot dogs. So they're $1. Enjoy. But it kind of is. You're basically, if you're running an insurance business in Georgia, part of the cost of doing business is being involved in the high risk floodplain pool. And you're just going to plan on, you're going to take a loss there that you have to make up in revenue somewhere else. Otherwise, you're not allowed. You don't get to do insurance business in Georgia. It's part of the requirement. But California does not apparently have anything like that in place. So you're going to hear a lot of noise about how these evil insurance companies cut these people off and abandoned them, and what monsters. No, this is like the '08 housing, the subprime mortgage crisis. Oh, those evil bankers and their subprime lending and the toxic asset relief programs. Those evil bankers were taking advantage of people. No, the evil bankers were forced by a government policy to make stupid loans, to loan mortgages, to write high-risk mortgages to people who couldn't afford them. And then they're sitting here with these toxic assets that they were forced by the government to produce. And they had to do something. Now, I'm not saying the thing they did, I'm not saying that the bundled high-risk mortgages was the best thing morally or ethically, but there does come a point, if the government is coercing you into doing things badly, then your options are to either go out of business or figure out some kind of a way to make it work. Right? You can liken it to property taxes, right? There was a popular, I think it was Yellowstone, maybe. One of the drama points in the show is over time, the farmers got hundreds, thousands of acres of usable farmland, but it's shrinking. The farmland is shrinking every year because the taxes are so high that they're having to sell off pieces of the total property to pay down the property tax every year. And that's a thing that's happening in America, is property taxes are forcing farmers to sell off parts of their farm. So, you got several thousand acres, and maybe you sell 100 acres off. That's going to end up being some kind of a little subdivision development or something abutted right up against your property, but you sell it so that you've got money to pay the taxes on the whole farm, so you can keep doing business for one more year. And then the next year you're 100 acres smaller, and then 100 acres smaller, and eventually you don't have a farm anymore. Right? There's a reason we use the euphemism "bought the farm" to describe when an old man dies, because that's how you get rid of the mortgage. Sorry, I'm sorry. I just got distracted reading over the comments there. Good morning, dear. Thank you, baby.
Focus on your show.
I love you too. We have a running joke in this house because I'm deaf. When I don't have, without about 10 G's worth of medical assistance and crammed into the side of my head, when the wife speaks, I can't hear her. And so anytime I can't hear what she said, I just say, I love you too. No matter what it was. She could be yelling at me for forgetting to put a fresh bag in the can after I took the trash out. I love you too. If I don't have my ears in. Anyway, so that was also a none too subtle reminder that we have places to go this morning. So I'm going to need to wrap this up. But, you know what, Dad? I want to make that video. I want to make that video. You showing up at the pearly gates in your dress blues and St. Peter standing there in parade rest. That'll break Twitter. Okay, so I tell you what, I am going to go ahead and put a pin in this one. But first, before I wrap it up, completely unrelated, just a fun little video I thought I'd share with you guys because it made me laugh. Let me share this one with you, because over here we're a big fan of the Lord's chicken, and not just because they make delicious chicken sandwiches, but because they have a freaking fantastic business model. And this just made me laugh, so I'm going to share this with you.
Okay, so we got the 2 chicken nuggets, and then the number 1 that's going to be $22.50 at the first one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Or my pleasure. My pleasure. I said my pleasure. I said my pleasure, right? Fuck, dude, you gotta let me in. I said my pleasure. I said my pleasure. You can ask him. I said it. I said it. No, you can. I said it. I said my pleasure. I said it. I said it. I said my pleasure.
So that was 2 chicken nuggets and a number 1. That's going to be $20.55 if you just pull around to the front window.
What happened to the other guy?
So there was no other guy, but if you just pull up, your food will be ready.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Okay, so
Yeah, I got a good chuckle out of that one. So I hope y'all enjoy that. But yeah, okay. So I got to put a pin in it because I got to take the family out and go have a day. Y'all be safe out there. Thanks for watching this morning. We love you, and we will see you tomorrow. Oh, I almost pushed the wrong button. There we go.